Hello and welcome to Cosmic Chapter Cafe. Each episode, we explore profound lessons from some of the world's most iconic books. Today, we're diving into Thinking, Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, exploring the 9 most important lessons about how our minds operate and the common traps we often fall into. Ready to see the world differently and challenge your own thinking? Let's get started. Lesson 1: 2 systems of thought. Kahneman unveils an intriguing concept of 2 systems, System 1 and System 2, that orchestrate the way we think, decide, and react. This profound insight provides a structured perspective to our understanding, taking us on a fascinating journey into the labyrinth of the human mind. Psychology, in its comprehensive exploration of human cognition, has frequently grappled with the intricacies and variances in the cognitive processes. Kahneman presents us with a crystal-clear explanation of these mental systems. System 1 operates effortlessly, akin to an instinct, facilitating us to make quick, immediate decisions. It is like the athlete within us, always ready to sprint. Picture yourself in a bustling market, trying to determine whether a vendor is trustworthy. Your mind swiftly scans his expressions, his body language, and within seconds, you form a gut feeling about his credibility. This is System 1 at work, making rapid judgments based on cues and patterns. Another striking example of System 1 can be seen when you react spontaneously to a humorous joke or understand simple phrases. You don't need to consciously analyze the joke or the sentence structure. Your mind processes it almost instantaneously. However, our mental processing isn't always as swift as reacting to a joke or judging a vendor. Life presents us with situations where we need to slow down, ponder, evaluate, and then decide. This is where Kahneman's System 2 steps in. System 2 is the analytical, logical part of our thinking process. It is like the chess player within us, carefully calculating every move. Consider the time when you pondered over a challenging mathematical problem, or the moment you had to decide whether to accept a new job offer. System 2 was at play here, demanding mental effort and attention to arrive at a reasoned decision. It's akin to a deep-sea diver, cautiously navigating the unknown depths, scrutinizing every detail before reaching a conclusion. The fascinating aspect is that neither system is superior to the other. Both are integral constituents of our cognitive architecture, harmoniously complementing each other. While System 1 bestows us with the agility to react quickly, System 2 delivers the depth of thought essential for complex decision-making. The mastery lies in harmonizing these systems, understanding when to let the instinctive System 1 lead and when to engage the analytical System 2. Like a pair of dancers, these systems, when in rhythm, can empower us to make better decisions, react aptly, and lead a more balanced life. So as we continue our exploration, let's learn to dance with our minds, shall we? Lesson 2: Heuristics and Biases. Let's dive into the fascinating concept of heuristics and biases and the critical role they play in our day-to-day lives. Heuristics, or mental shortcuts, are instrumental in accelerating our decision-making process. However, they are not without their caveats, as they can sometimes lead us to erroneous conclusions. These mental shortcuts work in an automatic, unconscious manner, often drawing conclusions based on easily accessible information. A prime example of this lies in how we make quick judgments and decisions without having to trudge through the lengthy process of evaluating all the pertinent information. In many ways, heuristics function as our brain's coping mechanism, helping us manage the deluge of information we encounter daily. Let's look at a few more instances where we utilize these cognitive shortcuts. Consider choosing a meal from a restaurant menu, deciding on a vacation destination, or even picking a book to read. In all these scenarios, heuristics play a significant role. Let's take the example of choosing a book. Many a time we may decide on a book based on its popularity or the author's reputation, a classic representation of the availability heuristic. Here, we rely on immediate examples that come to mind when evaluating a specific topic, concept, or decision. Similarly, when deciding on a vacation destination, we might opt for a place where our friends or family had a great time. This is an instance of the social proof heuristic. We tend to believe that if others have had a positive experience, we are likely to have one as well. As we've seen earlier, heuristics are not foolproof. A heavy vehicle is not always safer, just as a popular book is not always interesting, or a well-liked vacation spot may not always meet our expectations. They may simplify complex decision-making processes into manageable chunks, but they are not always accurate. The potential for error is the trade-off with heuristics. But being aware of these mental shortcuts and the biases they could lead to can help us make more mindful, informed decisions. That, in essence, is the power and the paradox of heuristics. Lesson 3. Prospect Theory. Prospect theory suggests that we fear losses more intensely than we value equivalent profits. Presented by Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman and his collaborator Amos Tversky, this intriguing psychological framework elucidates how decision-making is shaped by the potential for loss or gain. Visualize a situation where two options are presented to you. The first one is a sure gain of $50, while the other is a 50-50 chance of either scoring $100 or leaving with nothing. Surprisingly, a majority of us would opt for the definite $50, despite the average outcome of the gamble being the equivalent. This indicates our brain's tendency to steer clear of risks and lean towards certainty. However, let's switch the circumstances. Suppose you were certain to lose $50, or had an equal likelihood of losing $100 or not losing anything at all. Research has revealed that most individuals would opt for the gamble in these conditions, even if the projected loss is the same. Here's where the prospect theory comes into play. Let's delve deeper into a scenario that might ring familiar to you. Ever felt hesitant about changing jobs for a slightly better pay due to the anxiety of the unfamiliar, the dread of potential loss? Concerns about leaving behind a well-known work environment, the bonds you've formed with your peers, or the safety of a job you're adept at might hold you back. This hesitance to let go of your current situation, even when presented with a chance for betterment, is a textbook case of loss aversion. This psychological occurrence prompts us to assign more importance to what we risk losing than the potential gains. And this goes beyond just money or material possessions. It extends to emotional and social aspects as well. Let's draw from the book to illustrate this further. Consider a game of soccer where the team leading might adopt a more defensive strategy to secure their lead, that's loss aversion, or a business that is hesitant to undertake risky innovations to sustain their market standing, that's another instance of this theory. Even in our personal lives, we often reject opportunities for advancement due to our fear of potential risks. This is the power and prevalence of loss aversion, a key lesson from prospect theory. Lesson 4. The anchoring effect. The anchoring effect is a fascinating psychological phenomenon that subtly but significantly directs our choices and judgments. The anchoring effect is a cognitive bias where preliminary information excessively sways our decisions. This initial piece of information, also known as the anchor, sets a reference point that has a considerable sway over our subsequent decisions. Let's decode this with a practical, everyday example. Say you're at a shopping mall and you step into a clothing store. Your eyes are immediately drawn to an attractive sweater. A sign above it exclaims, "Discounted, was $100, now only $50. The elements are all strategically designed to seize your attention. The bright lights, the bold red letters, the slashed-down price, and they successfully do. The original price of $100 is the first piece of information you encounter, and it serves as the anchor. This anchor then becomes the basis to evaluate the current price of $50, which appears to be a significant drop. And here's where the psychological bias slips in. The actual value or manufacturing cost of the sweater remains unknown to you. You are not aware if other stores might offer the same sweater at a cheaper rate. Your knowledge is limited to the apparent price drop from $100 to $50. This information convinces you that you're getting an excellent deal. The $50 price tag now seems like a steal, even if it's not. This is the anchoring effect at work, altering our perception and judgment. It tricks our decision-making process by making us believe we are getting a more fantastic deal than we actually are. But the anchoring effect isn't confined to shopping. It echoes in various facets of life. For instance, when negotiating salaries, the first number that is put on the table often acts as an anchor that influences the rest of the negotiation. In real estate, The listed price of a house serves as an anchor that can significantly sway the final selling price. Even when making decisions about our health, the initial prognosis or diagnosis can set the stage for our subsequent decisions and expectations. The anchoring effect is a powerful tool that marketers, negotiators, and even we unknowingly employ in our day-to-day lives. The original price, the first stated salary, the initial medical prognosis, all act as anchors, making the subsequent numbers or information seem more desirable or acceptable, even if they aren't truly so. As we continue to explore this concept in the upcoming lessons, remember, awareness of the anchoring effect can empower us to make more informed decisions. So the next time you see a sale, negotiate a salary, or make choices about health, be aware of the anchor. It just might save you from making a decision that's not as beneficial as it appears. Lesson 5. Availability Heuristic. This cognitive concept prompts us to overestimate the probability of events that are easily retrievable from our memory. It's a mental shortcut that our brains employ, allowing us to make quick judgments based on information we can recall easily. This heuristic is particularly influential when it comes to estimating the likelihood of specific occurrences or outcomes. Often, our minds latch on to instances that are most memorable or vivid, regardless of whether they are representative of the broader picture. For instance, let's consider the frequency with which we hear about instances of shark attacks. These events are striking and dramatic, which makes them more memorable. As a result, when asked about the probability of a shark attack, you might overestimate it, mainly due to the availability heuristic. Similarly, think about the last time you heard about a lottery winner. These stories are often publicized because they are unusual and exciting. However, they can lead us to overestimate our chances of winning the lottery, once again because of the availability heuristic. This heuristic can be a useful tool, allowing us to make decisions quickly and efficiently. However, it can also lead to significant biases and distortions, shaping our perceptions of reality in ways that may not always be accurate. For example, let's say you've been watching news coverage that frequently includes stories about airplane mishaps. These news stories are often emotionally charged and dramatic, making them highly memorable. Consequently, they are easily retrievable from your memory when you're asked to consider the safety of air travel. This might lead you to overestimate the risk associated with this mode of transportation, a misperception influenced by the availability heuristic. Yet, in reality, flying is statistically much safer than driving. Numerous studies and data have indicated the disparity in the number of accidents between these two forms of transportation. However, because car accidents are so commonplace and hence less newsworthy, they don't stick in our memory in the same way that airplane disasters do. Therefore, even though the availability heuristic might lead you to develop an irrational fear of flying, it's important to remember the facts. Despite it being statistically safer than driving, the constant bombardment of airplane mishap news can make flying seem more dangerous than it truly is. Lesson 6. Representativeness Heuristic. This heuristic is all about estimating probabilities based on a process of approximation, a mental shortcut that our brain tends to use quite frequently. Plunging into the depths of our psychology, the representativeness heuristic relies heavily on how closely a certain situation or person resembles a pre-existing or typical case embedded in our minds. Allow me to paint a picture for you. Imagine you meet a quiet and introverted individual who has a passion for books. You might see them spending their quiet lunch breaks engrossed in a novel, perhaps a timeless classic or a contemporary piece of fiction. They may even possess a library card, showcasing their dedication to literature and regularly attending poetry readings or book clubs. Observing their affinity for books, their introspective quietude, their solitude, your mind begins to form an image, a stereotype, and begins weaving a narrative around this person. This narrative is constructed through the cognitive shortcut of approximation, consequently leading you to make a certain categorization. Now, this categorization might be shaped by your exposure to movies, literature, or societal norms. Your brain, in its relentless quest to make sense of the world, may mistakenly classify this person as a librarian, a profession stereotypically associated, in popular culture with quiet individuals who harbor a deep love for literature. However, a crucial point to remember is that this heuristic of approximation might ignore the statistically more common professions that might fit this person's profile. A love for books does not automatically make someone a librarian. There are multiple professions where a fondness for reading is not just appreciated, but valued. Thus, we can conclude that the categorization resulting from the heuristic of matching to a typical case may not always yield the most accurate results, as it tends to disregard more statistically prevalent professions. Lesson 7. Overconfidence. It's an intriguing quirk of human behavior, this tendency to overestimate our knowledge, skills, and capabilities. Often we believe that we are superior to those around us, not just in our professional lives or our hobbies, but also in everyday activities. Let's take the example of driving. A regular part of most people's routines, we climb into our vehicles, fasten our seatbelts, and navigate through the often chaotic roads. However, when asked, most drivers will assert that they are superior to others. How fascinating is that paradox? We each believe in our individual superiority in an activity that millions carry out daily. It's a vivid illustration of overconfidence in motion. We assume we're more skilled because we've driven longer distances without trouble or have had fewer accidents. Let's expand our perspective. Consider cooking, for instance. Many of us believe we can make the perfect steak or the fluffiest pancakes, superior to any professional chef. Or take the realm of do-it-yourself home repair. Just because we've successfully fixed a leaky faucet once or twice, we might believe we're as capable as trained plumbers. This extends to our work lives, hobbies, and even relationships, where time and again, we overestimate our abilities and skills. But what impact does this overconfidence have on our self-perception? It often inflates our self-image, leading us to believe we are better, more skilled, or more knowledgeable than we truly are. This overestimation can lead to poor decision-making, increased risk-taking, and even a disregard for the expertise of others. Consider this. Most drivers consider their skills superior to others, a statistical improbability which strongly underscores our inclination towards overconfidence. Realistically, everyone cannot be the best. It's mathematically impossible. This provides a crystal clear example of how overconfidence often clouds our judgment and skews our perspective. As we navigate through life, it's essential to be aware of this tendency, tempering our confidence with a healthy dose of humility and respect for the abilities of others. Lesson 8. Framing effects. This phenomenon, which so subtly yet decisively influences our decision-making process, is more pervasive than you might think. Let's start by reiterating that framing is all about the presentation of information and how this presentation can drastically sway our choices. This concept is not confined to any one area of life, but permeates almost every aspect of our existence. Imagine you're considering investing in a mutual fund. The company could present the same information in two ways. They might say, this fund has an annual growth rate of 20%. Sounds good, doesn't it? It inspires confidence and a sense of potential gain. Alternatively, they might say, this fund experiences a loss once in every 5 years. Even though the statistical reality is identical, the second framing highlights the potential risk rather than the potential gain, making it seem less attractive. Now, let's look at a political scenario. A politician might choose to say, our policies have reduced unemployment by 5%, rather than stating, unemployment is still at 15%. Again, the facts are the same, but the framing is not. The former statement emphasizes progress and improvement, while the latter underscores the persisting issue. The power of framing extends into our daily interactions as well. Imagine a friend advising you to avoid eating too much junk food, as opposed to try to eat more healthy food. The message is the same, but the framing could potentially affect your receptivity to the advice and subsequently your actions. As we can see, the manner in which information is presented, the frame, can greatly impact our interpretation and reaction to the same. It's a silent influencer, quietly guiding our decisions and molding our perspectives. Understanding the power of framing can not only empower us to make more informed decisions, but also help us discern the true intent behind the information we're given. In essence, framing, as innocuous as it may seem, holds the power to shape our reality, by changing the way we perceive, interpret, and act upon information. Lesson 9. The sunk cost fallacy. This psychological persuasion often traps us in a cycle of commitment to a failing endeavor simply because we've invested resources into it. It's akin to a whirlpool, drawing us deeper into the vortex of sustained commitment, even when the returns diminish significantly. Let's venture further into this concept to understand its role in shaping our decisions. To illustrate the sunk cost fallacy, let's consider a real-world scenario. Imagine you've been eagerly awaiting a movie because the trailer seemed promising, or perhaps your favorite actor was starring in it. You purchased tickets, popcorn, and a drink, the full cinema experience. As you settle into your seat, excitement brews for what you anticipate to be an excellent film. However, 30 minutes into the movie, you are unenthralled. The plot is lacking, the characters are lackluster, and the storyline drags on tediously. When you glance at your watch, it dawns on you that you're not enjoying the movie. The question then arises, would you leave or would you stay? This is where the sunk cost fallacy takes the stage. Instead of leaving, many of us choose to stay, rationalizing that we've already paid for the tickets. This sense of sunk cost influences our decision to continue watching the movie till the end, despite our lack of enjoyment. Our investment of both time and money feels too significant to abandon. The sunk cost fallacy permeates many areas of our lives, often without us even realizing it. For example, in the book Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely, he discusses how we might continue to dine at an unpleasant restaurant simply because we've bought a coupon or prepaid for a meal. Or we might continue reading a book we don't enjoy just because we've invested time into the first few chapters. The sunk cost fallacy is not always logical or rational. However, it is deeply ingrained in our decision-making processes, influencing us to adhere to our initial choices, fueled by our investment, regardless of the returns. So the next time you find yourself enduring a terrible movie simply because you've paid for it, remember the sunk cost fallacy. It might just change the way you make decisions. Cognitive biases, as outlined by Kahneman, steer significant decisions and their widespread impact. This is not just a theoretical exploration. The biases that Kahneman talks about have profound implications in our day-to-day lives, both on a personal and professional level. They shape our decisions, often without us even realizing it. When you think of why companies, regardless of their size or industry, often persist with failing projects, you might assume it's due to a lack of alternatives or innovative ideas. However, the real culprit is a series of psychological biases that Kahneman has meticulously dissected. The impact of these biases is far-reaching. They are not limited to our personal lives, but extend to our professional decisions and the overall operations of businesses and corporations. In the end, they can result in substantial financial losses and missed opportunities, demonstrating the profound influence of these biases on our decision-making process. From selecting our wardrobe, choosing our meals, deciding whom to trust, to navigating the route to work, our thoughts are firmly in control. The degree to which our decisions are swayed by psychological biases can be quite astonishing. It's a ceaseless internal tug-of-war. Which discoveries about these cognitive biases have intrigued you the most? We're eager to hear your viewpoints. Please leave a comment below. Let's create a knowledge-seeking community, passionate about uncovering the multiple dimensions of human cognition. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We regularly present discussions designed to illuminate, engage, and educate. And it's all unfolding here at Cosmic Chapter Cafe. Until our next enlightening encounter, continue your exploration into the enthralling realms of human cognition.